So you want to become a famous musician? Get in bed. We have to first test the product and see how it performs. How far are you willing to go to become the biggest star? Don't forget to subscribe and share for more stories. Justin was a 16-year-old boy with a big heart and even bigger dreams. He lived with his mother in a poor neighborhood, in a city, in a small house that barely kept out the rain when it stormed. His mother worked long hours as a cleaner at a nearby hotel, but the money was never enough. Justin hated seeing his mother so tired and worried all the time. He knew that their life was hard, but he had something that brought him joy: music. Every day after school, Justin would pick up his old guitar and head to the streets. The guitar was a gift from his father, who had passed away when Justin was very young. Though the guitar was old and worn, it was Justin's most prized possession. He loved music with all his heart. It was something that made him forget how hard life was. On the streets, Justin would sing and play his guitar. People would stop, giving him a coin or two, but many just walked by. Still, Justin never gave up. His voice was sweet and filled with emotion, and every time he sang, he imagined himself standing in a big stage with thousands of people cheering for him. One cold evening, while Justin was singing on the corner of a busy street, a man in a fancy suit stopped to listen. This man's name was Mr. Combs, and he was a famous music producer. Mr. Combs had discovered many artists and helped them become famous. When he heard Justin's voice, he knew there was something special about him. "You have a great voice, kid," Mr. Combs said after Justin had finished his song. "How would you like to become a star?" Justin couldn't believe his ears. A star? It felt like a dream coming true. His heart raced with excitement, and he didn't hesitate for a second. "I would love to," Justin said eagerly. "Good," Mr. Combs smiled. "Come with me tomorrow, and we'll get started on your journey to fame." Justin ran home that night, barely able to contain his excitement. He told his mother everything, expecting her to share in his joy. Instead, she looked worried. "Are you sure about this, Justin?" she asked consciously. "We don't know this man. Be careful." Justin was too excited to listen to his mother's concerns. "This is a chance, Mom. This is what I have been waiting for. I can finally help you, and you won't have to struggle anymore." His mother sighed, knowing how much Justin loved music. "Just promise me you will be careful." "Okay? I promise, Mom," Justin said confidently. "This is going to change our lives." The next day, Justin met Mr. Combs at his big fancy office. Everything felt new and exciting to Justin, something he had only dreamt of before. Mr. Combs and his team praised Justin, telling him he had a natural talent. Soon, they released his first song, and people began to notice his voice. At first, everything seemed perfect. Justin thought he was on the path to becoming a star. But as time went on, things started to change. Mr. Combs began making demands that made Justin feel uncomfortable. "You need to change your look," Mr. Combs said one day. "You need to be more attractive to your audience." They made him wear clothes that were tight and revealing. Justin didn't like it, but they kept telling him it was part of business. "If you want to be famous, you have to do what it takes," they told him. Justin felt trapped, but he did not know how to say no. As the pressure mounted, the demands became worse. Mr. Combs and his team forced Justin to do things that were disgusting to him. They made him pose in inappropriate ways for pictures and act in ways that made him feel so ashamed. Justin hated every minute of it, but every time he thought about quitting, he remembered his mother, their small house, and the hope for a better life. He felt like he had no choice. One night, after a long day at the studio, Justin went home and told his mother everything. He expected her to understand, to to tell him it was okay to stop, that he didn't need to do these horrible things. But instead, her response shocked him. "Justin," she said softly but firmly, "you have to do what they ask you. This is your chance to make something of yourself. We need the money. Think about all the sacrifices I've made for you. You cannot throw this opportunity away." Justin felt his heart break. He wanted to cry, but he held it in. His own mother, the person he thought would protect him, was telling him to keep doing things that made him feel sick. The weight of it became too much for him to bear. As the days went by, the pressure continued to build. Justin began to feel he was losing control of his life. Mr. Combs kept pushing him to do more and more things that made him uncomfortable. The fame, which once seemed like a dream, was now turning into a nightmare. One day, after a particularly hard photo shoot, where they had forced Justin to wear revealing clothes and act in ways that made him feel humiliated, one of the crew members gave him a small pill. "Take this," man said. "It will help you relax." Justin hesitated, but the man insisted. "You will feel better, trust me." Desperate to escape the pain and pressure, Justin took the pill. At first, it felt like a relief. His mind went numb, and the overwhelming feeling of shame and fear faded away. But it didn't last long. Soon, he needed another pill and another. Before long, Justin was hooked. The pills became his way to cope with everything. Whenever he felt overwhelmed and disgusted by what Mr. Combs and his team made him do, he turned to the pills to make the pain go away. But the more he took, the more he needed, and the deeper he fell into the addiction. Justin's once bright eyes became dull, and his body grew weaker. He began to lose weight, and the joy he used to feel when he played the guitar was now gone. Music, the one thing that he always loved, was now tied to his pain. One night, after being drugged at a party from Mr. Combs, Justin woke up feeling so disoriented. The party was full of old people, and before he knew it, he was given a pill and he was drugged at the party. When he woke up, he couldn't remember what happened the night before, but he had a strange feeling that something terrible was done to him. He was in pain. His whole body was hurting. He couldn't sit properly. He was violated. He felt dirty. He felt disgusted with himself. Mr. Combs was seated in the corner. His eyes smiled. "Great job. What you did yesterday was fantastic." Mr. Combs laughed off. "This is what you have to do. You are in this business now, kid. Get used to it, because this was just the beginning. There are more parties to come, and I expect you to be at your best behavior." Justin felt like he was drowning. Pills were not enough to numb the pain anymore. He couldn't stop thinking about what happened to him. He felt disgusting. He had been abused, not just by the industry, but by the people he trusted. The weight of it all became too much, and Justin broke down, crying uncontrollably in his small empty apartment. He wanted to quit. He wanted to run away from it all. But every time he thought about leaving, he heard his mother's voice in his head. "We need the money. Justin, this is your chance." Justin felt trapped, as if there was no way out. The fame he once dreamt of was now a prison, and the drugs, which had once become a way to escape, were now controlling him. As Justin's addiction worsened, so did his career. He stopped showing up for the photo shoots and missed important recording sessions. Mr. Combs began to lose patience with him. "You are messing everything," he yelled during a heated argument. But Justin didn't care anymore. He was tired of being used and abused. Soon, the money stopped coming in. Without new music to sell, the record label started to lose interest in Justin. Mr. Combs, who once promised to make him a star, now treated him like a burden. Justin lost control of his life. One day, he went home to his mother hoping for comfort. But when he arrived, she wasn't there. Instead, he found a note. "Justin, I cannot do this anymore. You have brought nothing but shame and trouble to our lives. I have tried to support you, but you have failed. You are on your own now. Justin felt like his world had collapsed. His mother, the one person he thought would never leave him, had abandoned him. He had no money, no family, and no hope. With nowhere to go, Justin ended up on the streets. He wandered through the city, sleeping in parks and alleyways. The pills had taken over his life, and he couldn't stop using them. Even though he knew they were killing him, he was thin, dirty, and completely lost. For 3 long years, Justin lived like this. His guitar, once a source of joy, was now just a forgotten memory. His dreams of fame were shattered, and the music he had once loved became a distant echo in the back of his mind. Every night, he lay on the cold ground, shaking from the effect of the pills and hunger, crying himself to sleep. His body was weak, and his spirit was broken. He lost everything: his career, his family, his dignity. One rainy night, as Justin sat under the bridge, trying to escape from the cold, a woman approached him. She wore a bright yellow raincoat and carried a large bag filled with food and blankets. Her name was Hannah. She volunteered at a local homeless shelter. "Hey," Hannah said softly, kneeling down beside Justin. "Are you okay?" Justin didn't answer at first. He was too ashamed to look at her. He felt like he didn't deserve anyone's kindness, not after everything he had gone through. Hannah placed a warm blanket over his shoulders and handed him some food. "You look like you could use something to eat," she said with a gentle smile. Justin hesitated but eventually looked at the food. He hadn't eaten a proper meal in days, and the simple act of kindness brought tears to his eyes. For the first time in years, someone was showing him compassion. Hannah didn't just stop there. She returned to the bridge every day, bringing food, clean clothes, and kind words. Slowly, Justin began to trust her. He hadn't trusted anyone in a long time, but there was something about Hannah that made him feel safe. One day, after weeks of seeing Justin under the bridge, Hannah convinced him to come to a homeless shelter. "We can help you get back to your feet," she said. "You don't have to live like this." Justin, still struggling with his addiction and the weight of his past, he hesitated. He didn't believe he could ever escape the darkness he had fallen into. But Hannah's kindness had touched something deep inside him. He wanted to be better. He wanted to find a way back to the person he used to be. After the shelter, Hannah helped him get into a rehab program. It wasn't easy. The withdrawal was painful, both physical and emotional. Justin had to face the demons of his past and the memories of the abuse, and the overwhelming guilt he felt of the choices he made. But with Hannah's support, he pushed through the worst of it. Hannah never gave up on him. She visited him every day during his recovery, bringing him books, sitting with him, and listening to his stories. She learned about his love for music and how much pain the industry had caused him. Justin slowly opened up to the abuse he had suffered under Mr. Combs, the way he had been manipulated, and how the pills had become his only way of escape. Hannah listened without judgment. He encouraged Justin to pick up his guitar again, telling him that music didn't have to be tied to pain. It could be his way of healing. Over time, Justin and Hannah grew closer. Hannah had always been a fan of Justin's music, but now she saw the real Justin, the broken boy behind the fame, the one who had been so hurt deeply, but still had so much love to give. Slowly, they fell in love. With Hannah's support, Justin started to play music again. He found peace again in his guitar, using it to express all his pain, anger, and sadness he had carried for so long. His music became raw, honest, and deeply emotional. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about healing. As Justin's music evolved, people began to notice. He uploaded a few songs on internet, and they quickly became viral. His fans, who had thought he disappeared, were now amazed by his comeback. They could feel his vulnerability in his songs, and they connected with it. on a deep level. Soon, Justin was back in the spotlight. But this time, it was different. He was in control of his career now, and he wasn't willing to let anyone take advantage of him again. With Hannah by his side, he started performing again, going on small tours, playing at intimate venues. His music began to bloom, and the offers from recording labels started pouring up again. But Justin was careful this time. He didn't want to go down the same path as before. He only worked with people he trusted, and he made sure that his music stayed true to who he was. Justin was much better. His career was thriving. He was clean from drugs, and he had found love and happiness with Hannah. But there was something that still haunted him. 3 years later, one night, Justin and Hannah attended a party for a music award ceremony. Justin was nominated for the Best Comeback Artist, and he felt like a full, happy moment. But there was a mingle. In the crowd, Justin's heart sank as he saw a familiar face, Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs was standing in a corner, talking to a young boy who couldn't have been more than 16. Justin's stomach turned as he watched the interaction. He knew exactly what Mr. Combs would do. He was grooming this boy, just like he had done to him all those years ago. Justin couldn't stand by and let this happen again. He had to do something to stop Mr. Combs from hurting another innocent boy. But he knew that going to the police wouldn't be of help. Mr. Combs had too much power and money, and he always found a way to escape justice. As Justin stood there thinking about what he could do, a stranger approached him. The man handed him a small USB drive and whispered, "You will want to see this." Justin was confused but took the drive. Later that night, he plugged it into his computer, and he was shocked by what he saw. The video on the drive was proof of everything Mr. Combs had done, not just to Justin, but to countless other boys. Someone had been secretly filming Mr. Combs for years, gathering evidence of his abuse. Justin knew that this video was his chance to finally bring Mr. Combs to justice. But he also knew that going to the police wouldn't be enough. He needed to expose Mr. Combs to the whole world. With Hannah's help, Justin uploaded the video to all his social media platforms, along with a message explaining his own story. He told the world the abuse he had faced and suffered in the hands of Mr. Combs, and how many other boys he had hurt too. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was being shared all over the internet, and the news outlets picked up the story. Justin's fans were behind him, calling for justice for all the victims of Mr. Combs. This time, there was no escaping for Mr. Combs. The evidence was too overwhelming, and the public outcry was too loud to ignore. The police, along with other authorities, arrested Mr. Combs as he was charged with multiple accounts of abuse. His empire crumbled overnight, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. With Mr. Combs finally behind bars, Justin felt a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in years. He faced his own demons and exposed the truth, and he hoped to prevent others from suffering the same fate he had. It wasn't easy, but with Hannah's support, Justin found a way to heal. His mother, who had abandoned him during his darkest days, came back into his life, asking for forgiveness. She told Justin that she was sorry for the way she had treated him, but Justin couldn't bring himself to forgive her. The pain she had caused him was too deep, and he knew that he needed to keep moving forward without her in his life. Justin continued to focus on his music. It was a tool of healing, not just for himself, but for others who had been through the similar struggles. His songs were filled with hope and became a voice of survivors of abuse and addiction. And through it all, Hannah remained by his side, supporting him and loving him unconditionally. Together, they built a new life, one filled with love, healing, and music. Justin's journey had been long and painful, but in the end, he had found his way back to himself. He had overcome the darkness and now was ready to live a life of peace and hope.